Alright, today we're going to prototype a new mod that I've been putting off from creating for a really long time now. If I look at that, it's like I've already done this before. So for a while now I've been thinking, oh, I should expose more of the quality settings that Unity offers. Like all of these, like it offers a lot of quality settings that you can't actually change in Gamecraft, but they actually do exist and they can be changed through mods or just through the command line if you're feeling fancy. But oh, some of these aren't loaded. But yeah, so that's what I'm making here. Kompressor, it doubles as a bad pun. It makes stuff faster, right? That's what supercharging does. We're going to use the template because that's cool. We're going to grab issue labels too because I don't want to set this up later. The idea behind Kompressor was originally just to make a mod for compressing save files, but we're not going to do that, at least not quite yet. So let's test this out. So I have command line open, so we're just going to get right into this. I'm going to skip over most of the boring stuff. This is, wow, that's not how you type commands. The boring stuff isn't important to anything, and if you want to start your own mod, most of the information that you need is actually already in the setup information for the README for Hello Modding World or whatever new mod you make that is created by that. Yeah, the big part is creating a ref. I can't highlight that. There we go. A ref folder, or I guess it's not technically a folder. It's technically a symlink. But yeah, so first things first, let's do the rename of everything. So you can see all my other mods and random projects I have here. Let's do the rename. So everything is going to be named Kompressor. Obviously I don't want everything to be called Hello Modding World. That's sort of pointless. So let's everything. I'm going to open this with just a regular text editor, and I'm going to look for all the, if this thing lets me type, which it does not for some odd reason. Okay, we're going to replace everything with Kompressor. Hello Modding World. Notice there's a bunch of them. There we go. Did all that. Save that. We can get rid of there. And we can go into Kompressor, and obviously we still have to rename these things. I'm going to open this too. I don't think there's actually anything that I need to rename here. Oh, that is not true. We should probably update all these descriptions and stuff. So the author is me, obviously. Sure, I'll leave it licensed under MIT. And then I'll change the URL to the correct one. Language is Canada because I'm Canadian. Anyway, so that's all we need for that. Now I'm going to open my IDE and get started with some coding. So here I opened the only code file that you get with Hello Modding World. As you can see, it still uses Hello Modding World namespace, so I should replace that. And we can leave in all of the comments and stuff. They're just there to explain things. Obviously this is no longer correct because I have renamed everything to Kompressor, which means that it will actually do things. So again, we can replace all the mentions of Hello Modding World with Kompressor or whatever mod you want, mod name you want. I didn't show this earlier, but the version is grabbed from the CS proj file. You can specify whatever you want, but usually the standard semver option is used, so semantic versioning, which is pretty straightforward. You get 3 numbers. You get a major, a minor, and then a patch number. Although for some odd reason, by default, C# uses 4 version numbers. So like there's another 0 at the end, just by default. And so this is all set up now for using the Gamecraft modding API. It's got calls and everything. I guess we should check to see if we can build it to make sure everything's set up properly. So usually I just use the shortcut F8 or Control B for me. But you can watch the whole thing build. See build successful, no warnings, messages, whatever. It copied a bunch of files to the output. That will only happen the first time. Let me get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff and I'll be back. You know, I say let's get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff, and then I realized that I should probably actually remove some of the stuff that comes with Hello Modding World because it's not particularly useful. And I mean, like, I'm gonna get rid of this command here. It doesn't do anything important. It just prints out Hello World or Hello Modding World or something. And there's a couple places we could start. Not there. Definitely not there. So you notice that there's an API here that I need to get familiar with. I also need to decide how I'm going to let users specify how to change these settings. I can't just expect them to type in stuff to the command line or something, because that would be pointless, because, I mean, you can already do that. And I would like something that is applied immediately at startup, as well as saved at shutdown, or potentially just editable while the game is shut down. So in order to accomplish all that, I need to figure out what sort of file I want to save all this information as, right? I have to save it as some sort of file, otherwise I'm going to lose it as soon as the game unloads. The real question is how. I was thinking, since Norby Petty had used Kompressor for one of his mods, I would use that too, but I was looking at it and it's a bit complicated to set up. I mean, I could definitely do it, but it's just a bit of extra work that I'm not willing to do just for a prototype. Basically, he just statically linked a file into the mod file. He basically merged 2 files so that he could distribute it as a single file, which is a really great idea, but I don't really want to do that. So we're going to reuse an existing file that is already in the Gamecraft files. I happen to know that this already exists. So let's take a look at that. So all of the Gamecraft code files are stored in one folder called Gamecraft data/managed. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of Gamecraft.something or RoboCraftX.something for older code files. Some of these are from mods as well, and other fun stuff. But none of these matter for what I'm trying to do. So there's this Newtonsoft.json, which is actually really powerful. I've looked this up before, so that's why there's stuff. So this is JSON.net, which is basically the de facto JSON parsing system for C#, which is really nice, because then I don't have to worry about distributing it or packaging it with my mod, because it's already in the game files. So yeah, that's what we're going to use, and I'd imagine we're just going to save a file to the game files here, or we could save it to app data if we wanted to. That's like a minor detail that I'm going to tackle later on. Yeah, let me figure out a couple things, maybe write some code, and then I'll come back and show you what I did and the point of all of it. I really hate monodevelop sometimes. essentially here what I want to do is I want to load everything from a given file and load the quality settings into an object, a quality settings object. I'm going to add some basic quality settings that I know it has. I want to capture the event when the game initially loads up. It loads into menu and apply all the settings then. Alrighty, this is a couple days later, but let's get started with some testing. So to do some testing, I need to first install the mod manually, more or less. To do that, I need to grab the actual compiled mod from this, the location that it's compiled to. Then we need to copy it into the Gamecraft folder called plugins, because, you know, put the plugin in plugin. And then we can launch it like any other thing. You know what would help if I actually had Steam open? I am so bright. After Steam has figured out that it wants to advertise stuff on this video, we can start by just running it and see what happens. Obviously, if it crashes at the start, then there's an issue with the startup sequence. Something isn't set up properly in Kompressor. We can also go to the player log if Gamecraft gives me my mouse back. Thank you. And we can check out here to see if Kompressor has been loaded and if there's any errors. So you can see Kompressor has been loaded. It's actually listed in the files. Oh, there we go. See, compressor started up successfully, which is good. Let's go to craft games. Let's hop into one of my test games, and then I will make sure that I can also see the command that I wrote there. It should help if I did this right. Yeah, so we have reload compressor here as well. That is because this build operation also registers the command with the game. That means everything that I've written so far seems to be working. We can try and do a reload just to make sure that things are working properly. It seems like everything's working properly. I can check down here, see if there's any errors or anything. I don't see any errors, which is a good thing. This won't actually print any errors if it does error out, or if it doesn't error out, it won't print anything out, because there's no printing happening in any of the applying settings options. Another thing we can check is whenever it applies the settings, when it fails, which will always fail the first time, it will actually create a default quality setting in the default location. So I can check that. We already have this open, so I don't need that. So the default location is just the default location of Gamecraft. In my case, that's the Robocraft X folder. If I look carefully, I can find a compressor.json file, which has all of the parameters or properties that we set up here. So I can set these to whatever I want. I will confirm that things are set properly in here too, because the shadow, so it goes away around here. Set this to 100. It does come back, which means that that shadow distance is actually being obeyed. There seems to be a near high quality shadow. You can see it pops in after a certain amount. Yeah, and that one seems to be a bit, I'm not sure if I can control that. We'll see. So when I set this to 0, okay, yes, they do both disappear. That's important to note. Let's try 8. I'm pretty sure 8 is supported. What did I just do? Oh. That didn't really change anything. Apparently I don't know what anti-aliasing does. Which, I mean, shouldn't be a big surprise. I am not very smart most of the time. Alright, let's have some fun then. Let's see if we can fix the VSync count. I think right now, yeah, if you check my FPS, my monitor is a 60Hz monitor. It's obviously not locked to 60Hz in any form. So what is this actually called? VSync count. Because, you know, capitalization and stuff matters. So this is set to 0. If I set it to 1, it should just immediately lock to 60, or almost immediately. Set to 2, it should lock to 2 times 60. If it's smart. Nope. Oh, it's just locked to 60. Interesting. That's very laggy for 60. Oh. It's not locking to 60. It's locking to 60 divided by 4, not 4 times 60. Okay, never mind. Why is this thing being dysfunctional? Maybe that's a reliable way to crash the game. I can't hit enter for some odd reason. Enter doesn't work anymore. That's very strange. All my other keys work. I didn't realize that could ever be an issue. Alright, never mind. we will just do the smart thing and exit and restart. The target frame rate is getting set to 60, and then whenever I set all this, it does weird things. Number of VSyncs. Oh yeah, sorry. This is what happens. It's like a RTFM moment. Jeez. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, I probably shouldn't be using that value. Just by that discovery, we should force it to be a Boolean, even though it could technically take other values. Boolean would be ideal. So we'll call it vsync count. And then I'm going to actually also make a target frame rate. I should check what value that takes. Okay, this takes an integer. In the interest of not actually restricting people to whatever stuff I think is necessary, I'm going to change this to an integer. There's really no reason that you'd want it to be anything other than 0 or 1. And by default, it will be 0, which is because 0 is the default number. But just in case... So now that we're slowly implementing one by one, I think it's time that I actually come back once I've implemented most values, because there are a lot of values, and I'm not exactly sure that all of these have anything useful. Okay, so now that that's all done and figured out, we can get into testing all of these settings and see what they actually do. That was sort of the point of making this quick prototype anyway. So let's see how that turns out. You don't need to see that. So I guess I should build it again just to make sure. And then we will copy over the files, or sorry, file single. You can see that all the new things have been added because the new size is significantly bigger than the old one. Alright, so now that that's done, let's launch Gamecraft and see if anything changes. First off the bat, not much should change. I really wish that would change and not be so loud, but that's a different story. So Kompressor, because it thinks there is a valid version, oh, this is already open, it won't actually update with the new values here. So I'll just check that everything's still working. Kompressor started up, no errors or anything, which is cool. Okay, so now we've confirmed that that works. I'm going to actually delete Kompressor so we get all the new values. It's easier than manually figuring out what they are. So in order to do that, oh, I already deleted it. We just need to relaunch the game. There we go. Alright, so now we have all the beautiful new values. Let's hop into a game. Everything's default right now, so there's a possibility that things are super messed up and I need to change some settings. But it's also a possibility that everything works fine, and behold, everything looks fine. There's some strange stuff happening there. But, yeah, okay. Alright, so adding field of view is pretty straightforward. I actually know where it is in the scripting API as well. So we can take a look at that. It's probably just faster to look it up. It's in camera settings for Unity, so. Wow. Thanks for results. Oh, that is actually the right town. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. Every camera component has a field of view option here, which is a float. That's the main part that I need to look up just to make sure that it's what I think it is. So that's just a public float, field of view, and then that's pretty straightforward, and then we just go ahead and implement this again. Now you notice that all of this is broken right now. That's just because I installed the preview version, and so all of the files changed location, but it's alright. Right now I am re-downloading the non-preview version, so that should fix itself in a minute. Camera.main.fieldofview. So let's set up the default settings to be the default settings that exist in Gamecraft already. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to uninstall the plugin so it doesn't override any settings. That's as easy as just deleting it. Delete permanently, doesn't really matter. We can reinstall it later, but I'm going to leave it as it is like this, and then I'm going to check all the values or things that I am setting, all these values here that I'm setting. We're going to write them down, and then I'm going to, so I'm going to write them down in the code. So first things first, let's launch Gamecraft. Apparently I don't have it on the quick access. And while I'm waiting for that to launch, I will set up a default system here. Jump into a game so that I can check all of the values just by typing them in over to the command line. So let's do it alphabetically because that's probably the easiest option. that's all set up. Now we have defaults being created. So let's test that out by reinstalling the mod. Gotta build it and copy it over. Seems to me that they're mostly right. Let's check the player.log as well, just to make sure there's no errors being thrown. It all looks good to me. There's no errors here either. Alright. So that looks promising. And that means it's pretty much done. I will definitely add a few more things to it just to make sure that everything's working properly, and also add some debugging or some helpful debug messages. But all in all, it seems to be working right now, and so it's basically done at this point. I am going to modify how this works just a bit. So there we have it. We have a fully functional prototype mod which exposes all the quality settings that Gamecraft itself doesn't actually expose. And it only took me maybe a couple hours to write. You'll have a better idea because you'll actually have seen all the footage of me writing it beforehand. I, on the other hand, have split this up across multiple days, so I don't remember how long it actually took. But I'm confident that it was reasonably fast, and the only major slowdowns were really the tedious parts, which were just manually assigning variables in a few places. But yeah, there we have it. This is Kompressor, and hopefully I'll have a second part for you guys soon. I guess I can discuss a bit from my plans for that. So Kompressor was originally designed simply to compress game saves, since they aren't compressed at all, and they do have a lot of data which is easily compressible and results in a good compression ratio, which means you can save a lot of storage by compressing them. So my plan for part 2 of this series is to actually add the compression system onto it by actually doing a bit of modding in Gamecraft loading, and hopefully that will go smoothly, and I can show that off very soon.